do with guns. I don't want to have anything to do with touching it. No, it was because I was traumatized. There was a lot of things from that.
Yeah.
I saw what that did. I saw the devastation, the killing that happened. There was kids young, like around 5-6 years old, that was taken out as child soldiers. She took us, and I was a few months old. She had to just take me and put her in the back at that time and just grab my siblings, and with what little belongings she had, and we just left that country as refugees.
Sexual abuse. How did that happen?
It was one of my cousins. It was a male. I was 9 years old. I think he was in his teens, if I'm not mistaken. And I first started off with me. When no one's looking, he would take me into the room and have me do some crazy sexual act with him. It sparked me to tell her is because I realized that I've been struggling with this. But I didn't really do what God asked me to do until I moved to Nebraska. Moved to Oklahoma from Nebraska. And then fast forward, my wife and I, we ended up losing our son in 2017. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So which kind of led to me leaving the Air Force in that season that was happening. If I may, give a little, because we got married in 2016, but we did our wedding in 2017. That year, everything was supposed to be great, honeymoon, everything. And then my wife went into this medical situation. Come to find out that she had ovarian cyst. 6 other ones that I know of right now, because my dad, I guess he was a basic guy. He was a basic.
All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, beautiful people, wherever you watching us from around the world. All right. Welcome once again on another great episode on 101 on K84 Podcast with your host and friend, Kenna the Greatest. Okay. All right. I got a great guest in the building today to have, a deep conversation. His story will blow your mind. Trust me. His story will blow your mind. But before we dive in deep into the conversation, make sure to become part of the K84 family and community by going on social media, liking, subscribing, following on all platforms. Just search K84 Podcast and stay connected, and then stay in tune with everything. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, hey, stick around. The show kicks off right after this.
It's KKATL, turn up, it's official.
Before we proceed to give you what you need, let me say this. If you got a story to share, either in being the business you started, whatever you got, the breakup, the divorce, whatever your story is, hey, our platform is open. Just shoot us a text on the number you see on your screen and we will get in touch with you. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest for today.
Tamba Benjamin is an accomplished photographer, documentary filmmaker, U.S. military veteran, born in Liberia, West Africa. Like many families, he was forced to flee during the Liberian Civil War in 1989. Growing up in America wasn't easy. He faced discrimination, abuse, and bullying. Through resilience and courage, Tamba overcame adversity. Today, he's a devoted husband, father, and a storyteller, using his voice, vision to share powerful stories. Join us today to share his journey on this episode. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Tamba Benjamin on 101 on K84 Podcast.
Welcome, Tamba. Welcome, brother. Yeah. How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
doing great. How are you doing?
I'm alive and grateful.
Oh, thank you. That's great.
Yeah. Before we dive in deep into the conversation, right?
Yeah.
You're an accomplished photographer, storyteller, documentary filmmaker. How did this all started?
Oh man, I'm still on the journey, but I would say I had no plan of this.
Really?
This was not my plan. This is actually something that God called me to do. If you would have told me back in, like 2015 that I was going to do something like this, I would have laughed at you. But this was something that God called me to do back in 2017. And I had no background and knowledge of photography, not even how to use a camera. So, yeah. So, but it was a leap of faith that I had to take. And at the time when God called me to do this, even though I was a little argumentative, arguing with him about the whole situation, I finally, decided on it. Like, okay, I agree. And I took that leap of faith.
Okay.
So that was back in 2017.
Okay. So for the sake of our audience that don't know much about your origin, where is you from?
Okay. I was originally born in Monrovia, Liberia.
Okay.
I was born in 1989, and that's the same year that the Civil War broke out in Liberia. So it was a lot of devastation that happened. A war-torn country,
So how many months old was you when the war broke out?
Oh man, as far as the history go, at least my parents, my mom told me I was probably like 6 months old, now 5-6 months old. I think it happened in December of '89, if I'm not mistaken, and I was born in June, so just around 5-6 months old. Yeah,
I see.
yeah, when it first started.
Dang.
Yeah. So the situation was very devastating. At that time, I was obviously living with my mom. Back up a little bit. I was born into two different tribes in Liberia. So Liberia itself has multiple different tribes.
Okay, so for the sake of those who don't know much about the establishment of Liberia, can you brief us the history of Liberia?
Yeah. So if you look at the history of slavery and everything that might have happened back then, you realize like how the slave trade happened, especially in the African region, and then we are one of those people, unfortunately, that became part of that slave trade. But during the time when slavery was, some of the time was being abolished, that's when some of our ancestors were let back into the country, right? I would say in around that time, we were fortunate enough to get in a liberation from all of that. So that's the reason. That's the name. Where the name come from, Liberia, liberation. If you look back in the history of that, our first few presidents were from the Western country, right? Until the
first black president.
First black president. But it took like few presidents later before we finally got our first black president, and then after that, it went on. So that's pretty much the history of that. It was pretty much a liberation from the slavery, and we got our name from that. If you even look at the flags, the flag of Liberia, you'll notice the recognition. It definitely resembles the United States. We just have one huge star, and the stripes a little bit less than the U.S.
So how did the locals at the time, right, live all, habit with the new, let's say, our forefathers or ancestors that got sent over there? How do they live together life?
How do they live together life?
Yeah. How do they live together? Because, hey, we're here and they're bringing new set of black people, to our space. How was that life, in that era?
Back in those time, to be honest, I want to say I know so much about that history around that time, but I would imagine just trying to get back into the realization of like, hey, we just came from slavery and all that, right? Trying to find that independence from the Western culture. But I'm sure there was still a lot of struggles that happened. A lot of people became farmers. There was a lot of farming culture. We have a lot of natural resources in Liberia as well too. Even to this very day, those natural resources are still there. So a lot of people became farmers. So that was the type of nature that they had to live.
Okay. So what caused the war in Liberia?
What caused the war? There's so many different story behind it. We can definitely look at the presidency at that time, right? President Charles Taylor overthrew Doe at that time, President Doe, and that incited the violence that happened, right? And during that time, the transitioning was not very clean. Doe was just another President Doe was just another president that also created a lot of war crimes as well too. And then President Charles Taylor at that time was supposed to come in and kind of help with the liberation of the people.
So Charles Taylor tried overthrowing President John Doe.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. And fast forward, as he was in power, it was a little bit difficult for him. Trying to get him to leave that seat of power was really what led to the huge war that happened at that time, right? So the man didn't want to leave his seat of power. So you got people from the rebels and the government, and just there's a huge clash that happened. In that time, you don't know what side is safe. The rebels are supposed to be fighting the government, and the government fighting the rebels. At that time, it was just you in between. You get caught in the crossfire, so nowhere is safe for you as an individual.
I see. Mm-hmm. So during the war, how did your parents survive the whole war?
No. Let's see. So when the war started, my dad at the time was working for the UN.
Okay.
It was unfortunate that he did not get to go home. They stopped him from going home because I guess he was just an asset to the UN, and they told him you can't go home. And my mom couldn't wait any longer, right? So she had to make a decision to take me as well as my other siblings, because I'm the youngest from her side, and just leave the country. She took us, and I was a few months old. She had to just take me and put her on the back at that time and just grab my siblings, and with what little belongings she had, and we just left that country as refugees. So we were living as refugees in between countries. So we traveled from Liberia to Sierra Leone to Guinea around that time. Even went through the Ivory Coast as well too. But we started living in tents, living in huts that we had to create, mud huts, and it was just a little bit a difficult time living in the bushes, trying to hide ourselves. There was even stories that I got that at one point I almost caused the killing of multiple people.
Wait.
Yeah,
that is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is really crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So how did your parents able to keep the family together during that time?
Wisdom from God. My mom didn't go to school, right? She was taken out of school very early on because of the culture. Then she was taken out at a very young age to marry to someone that was three times her age. But she didn't have the education. But one thing that she always had is God, right? And the wisdom that comes with that. And God just gave her the wisdom to know exactly when to move and when to stay, who to talk to, and God was always able to provide someone in her path to help her. So she just knew natural stuff. So she was a natural entrepreneur, to be honest. So she had means to she had a little shop that she would sell things like candy, little toys, and little things like that. And we had a little farm as well too. That's how we went about surviving during the war as refugees. So really, honestly, all of it come from just wisdom from God, and the knowledge that came in from having to survive through those hard times.
I see. Mm-hmm. So how many siblings you got?
From my mom's side, I got 4 siblings. There are 2 of us boys, and there are 4 girls. From my late father's side, because he passed away in 2007. When he passed away, I learned about his other kids, and I learned there are 6 other ones that I know of right now, because my dad, I guess he was a basic guy. He was a basic guy. So the ones that I know was 6 of them, and I want to say I'm somewhere in the middle. Okay. And there are just one girl and all boys.
Oh, okay. That's good. That's good. So, you know what I mean? How often do you go visit Liberia?
It's unfortunately I haven't been there since I left. Right.
Really?
Yes. I
Since
have
you were a
not.
kid?
Since I was a kid, I've had all means of going to visit, and Lord willing, I am.
So, what's stopping you from going to visit?
Yes. The first time I was planning on going, right, Ebola happened.
Oh.
Yeah, Ebola happened. So I had everything planned out. Like, hey, I was gonna go to Liberia because I want to visit my dad's grave and I want to pay respect to his grave. I never knew him in person, but at least to show some respect and then to kind of see the place a little bit, the difference from back then. And then what Ebola happened, so that's restricted that time. And financially, after that, I didn't have the means to be able to go. But later on, I wanted to go, and then what happened? COVID happened. Yeah.
It means like every time you plan to do something, an incident
something else happened.
Yeah.
COVID happened, and I'm just like, this is wow. Like, why is this such a big deal? But it's funny enough because all of my mom and everybody from my mom's side, my siblings, that is, they all live here. They're in Rhode Island. But my mom have traveled to Liberia multiple times.
Oh.
My siblings have traveled. No, one of my siblings has traveled one time, and I'm the only person besides my brother that have not went back to Liberia yet. And my goal is to eventually go. And when I do, I want to do a documentary when I get there. So I plan on bringing a crew with me to do a full documentary of the war and my survival as well too. Yeah,
that's great. That's great. So, tell me your life growing up in America.
So it was a shock. We talk about culture shock. That was a culture shock, right? First thing, knowing the fact that you live in a country where there's a little bit more. I mean, I want a little bit more freedom, right? And not only that, but the people were different, and then the language was different as well too. Even though we spoke English, we spoke broken English, but it was a whole lot of things for me to kind of get used to. But also because of the war that we had, the trauma of the war that we had to live through, that affected mentally how I had to live. So growing up for the first, I want to say even the first few months of living here, when fireworks would go off, like I ran underneath the table. That's how traumatized I was, right? Yeah, but and then growing up, I have tried to get acclimated to this life and this culture. I was, teased a lot because I was different. I sounded different, I looked different. I got teased so many times, and I had to live through those moments of life. And at some point, like I didn't feel belong in certain places. I didn't belong too much in my culture because I was too Americanized. And then I didn't belong in other culture because I was African, right? But I had to learn to adapt to the situation. So growing up was a little bit difficult, but to include some of the other traumatized things that happened in my life, like early on, what is the sexual assault that happened when I was 9 years old, that affected a whole lot of things in my life.
Okay, so when you guys first came to America, who did you guys live with?
So when we first came to America, we first lived with one of my brother first for a little bit, and then we ended up moving in because I think he was in a relationship at that time. So one of my mom's sister, we call it the place sister, said, "Hey, we have a place over here," and she and my mom has a history because during the war, my mom helped her family, or my mom's dad helped her family. So it was like, hey, kind of paying that forward, right? So she's like, hey, we have a basement over here. You guys can go ahead and live with us. So we lived with her, and I called her my aunt. I had cousins. I called them my cousins. It was not only me and my mom, but it was also another individual, a lady, and her son that was like I think 2 years younger than me, that we all lived together. We're all from the same tribe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're all from the same tribe in Liberia. Yeah, yeah. Well, we moved from Guinea here.
Oh.
Yeah, so we lived with them for, I want to say, almost a year.
Okay. Okay. So you did had some childhood, abuse, sexual abuse. How did that happen?
So at that time when we were just in the house by ourselves, it was one of my cousins. It was a meal, and when everybody would leave.
How old was she then?
Oh, how old was he? I was 9 years old. I think he was in his teens, if I'm not mistaken. And I still don't exactly know how many years of a difference it is, but I do remember he was in his teens. But he would come. He first started off with me. When no one's looking, he would take me into the room and have me do some crazy sexual act with him. And then that went on for a little bit, but he would threaten me on like if I reveal it to anybody. Come to find out a little bit later, he was also doing it to the other young guy that I told you about that that lived with us as well too. And this went on time after time after time for almost the whole period that we were there. And it was at that time, like as a young 9-year old, you don't really realize the situation that was going on. It was uncomfortable, but you don't understand what's going on, right? I got introduced to sexuality early on, even before this whole situation happened. Like I was young in Africa, that I got introduced to that, but this was a whole different thing. This was with another male, so I didn't really understand what this is or what this was all about. But we were pretty much taken advantage of. We were raped. We were sexually assaulted. And to this very day, I don't even know what happened to this other boy.
Okay,
But, yeah.
so how did your parent or your mom go to find out what was going on?
I had to reveal to her eventually. It was, I want to say, in 2019. I revealed it to her. But the first time that happened, the reason why that sparked me to tell her is because I realized that I've been struggling with this problem, this trauma for a long time, and I didn't realize that it was something that was a driving force into a lot of things in my life. And then when it finally clicked, when I was in the Air Force doing one of the sexual assault briefings that we have, and then I realized, oh snap, I'm one of those guys, because people were laughing like, oh man, don't get sexually assaulted. Oh, if you get sexually assaulted, it's not a big deal and stuff like that. And I was like, I was one of those individuals. So, and then once I finally realized that I have been struggling with this, I talked to my wife about that. My wife told me about like, hey, have you finally released that situation? I was like, I thought I forgave them. And she asked me, have you told your family about this? And I said, no.
So, whilst you were growing up with this incident happening, you never told nobody?
I never told anybody. No one knew for all these years that I had struggled with that abuse until I had to lay it out to my mom in 2019. And I had to ease my way into telling her as well. So because that was someone that she trusted, right? And not to say it was my aunt's fault, but she trusted the home enough to be a safe place. And to hear that her son at that age was sexually assaulted was had to be devastating for her. So I had to like ease her way, take her out, and just sat her down and say, I want you to know what I'm about to tell you. I want you to just understand that I've had peace with this and I've forgiven everything that has happened. But I'm only telling you this because I feel that it's time for me to tell you this. And I didn't realize that I was honed onto this for a long time in the back of my head. I didn't know how to say it because I was still walking with this trauma. And I finally told her. And obviously she was holding back as much as she wanted to. Not to cry, not to sound angry and anything, but I can tell. I could tell she was hurt.
What are some effects that act had on you growing up as a kid?
The effect it had on me was trying to figure out what the heck was that. Like I got thrust into this life of the sexuality, and I subconsciously I was trying to prove myself that I was not gay. Right? I was not I was not gay, and what that did subconsciously, I just kept this feeling of wanting to always be with women, always wanted to have sex with women. I was addicted to the lifestyle of that. every time I needed to be in a relationship, every time I needed to have sex, right? And that was something that was a driving force. And I didn't realize that it was actually a mechanism I was using to kind of block out the situation that happened until years later, until that hit that time when I realized that, oh snap, I have been sexually assaulted. And then it just spun back into everything. I was like, wow, I didn't realize that everything that I've been doing, obviously through therapy as well too, that everything I've been doing was because I was trying to protect myself from feeling like I'm not of the pain, first of all, and two, to prove myself that I wasn't gay, and just the feeling of wanting to be with someone, right? So that affected me a lot. I was going from relationship to relationship, obviously mentally, physically exhausted, but as well just people that I don't even know. Sometimes we got hooked up, one night stand and everything. That it was such a crazy life for a long time, from a very young age all the way to before I even met my wife. So that was some of the things that affected me. It made me the person that I became resentful in some way, and I didn't feel like I deserved to be in a relationship, even though I wanted to be in a relationship.
So how did you meet your wife?
I met my wife in the Air Force. She was also Air Force as well too.
Okay.
And she came into our office at one point when she needed help on some of her financial stuff. And she came in, and obviously her demeanor was what drew me to her. And since then we hit it off. I mean, we started off really rough because of all the trauma that I had as well too. But it was in that instance of the situation that I was facing that there was a light to realize that this is the woman that was meant for me.
So was you able to open up to her that, hey, I've been through this. This is my life from where I started. I was born, came to America, and all of that. Did you open up to her? Because sometimes people get in relationship and then they kind of like keep things to themselves. So.
Yeah. No, yeah, I open up to my trauma, some of my trauma from the war, right? Surviving as a refugee. But the sexual assault part, I didn't open up to her until when we were engaged. Yeah. That's when she finally got exposed to this, which I just laid. She was the first person actually that I ever told about that. No one else knew besides the young boy, which I don't know where he's at to this day. No one else knew about the situation but her at that moment, and I felt like I owe it to her to explain to her about some of that life and what led me to always be attracted to different women in my life, and how that affected me in a lot of my relationship, and how that affected our relationship in the beginning when we first started dating.
So how did that affected you and her relationship when you guys started dating?
It was a lot of clash back and forth. We don't cuss, we don't yell at each other and stuff like that, but we got into a lot of arguments, right? We couldn't see eye to eye. For me, there was a lot of different insecurities that I struggled with. And also with her, it was just, she also had some other issues with her past relationship as well too. So communication was an issue. And two, we also came from a different background, right? Different culture. I even though she was African American, but I'm African, I was raised differently. She was raised differently, right? So the understanding was a little bit differently of some stuff. She may not have understood some of the things that I've been struggling with. Not that she was, ignorant to it, but there was some stuff that I was holding on to and that she couldn't understand, right? So we clashed back and forth for a little while about some of those stupid things, but it's all because of trauma. And we had to go early on when we were dating. We had to go to counseling, dating counseling. Even the counselor was surprised, like, what are you guys here for? Like, well, we need counseling because we believe we want to be in this relationship. We want to get married. I was like, I've never had anyone that is dating that, has sought out counseling before. So it was shock to them. So we saw it counseling as a couple, dating couple. We weren't even engaged at that time. And then we saw individual counseling as well too, because we realized that we needed to fix ourselves as well too, in order for us to be great for each other.
That's good. That's good. So how long have you guys been dating or being together or married?
So we started dating November of 2015. So yeah, 10 years.
That's
And we've
awesome.
we've been married. 10 years.
That's great.
And we've been married for that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. April of 2022, April of 2026 is gonna make us 10 years married actually.
Congratulations.
Yes. Yes. I hope I'm getting this right. She's gonna probably look at me like that's not exactly what's going on. Yeah, no, it was 2015. I remember because I proposed to her in 2016. That year, 2016, we got married. No, we got married in 2016. 2014. That's what it was. 2014, we've been together. Yes, I apologize. 2014, proposed to her 2015, and then we got married in 2016. Yes.
Okay.
That's the right number. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, you know what I mean? With that incident you went through, right?
Yeah.
When you sit and then reflect through life, right? What are certain mechanisms or structures you put in place that your kids wouldn't go through the experience you went through?
Yeah, that's a very good question. And my wife and I had to talk about this, right? Because even though she didn't experience the sexual assault, but she realized how this thing can affect people, and she realized early on that hey, we need to protect like when we have kids, this is the things we're gonna put in. Well, we decided that one, our kids will not be, having sleepovers, unfortunately, unless we're there, right? And if we're hosting a sleepover, I will not be in the house as a male, especially if that's another female with my daughter. It's just because of any situation would have happened. But for them, to protect them, we knew we had to talk to them, right? Some people probably jump around the subject of sexual assault, or just the idea of like talk to the kids about these different things. We weren't shy away. Like, we're not going to expose them so early on, because my daughter just turned 7 and my son is 4 years old. We're not going to expose them to all the situations that happen, but we tell them like, hey, this is your body part. If this was to happen to you, you say it, like, you touch you touch me in this area. And we don't tell them to just, oh, you touched my private spot. No, say the name of it, because it makes a whole difference. Because if you just say my private part, the play names, they won't take you seriously. And even if you were to go in front of and do an investigation, they won't take that as seriously. But we had to teach them some of these things, not to say we're giving them everything, but we just let them know this is an area only mom and dad can be here. And at a certain age, right, we stop. Like when my daughter was turning a certain age, I was not the one that's being there when she's changing anymore, right? My wife is the one to take care of it. My son, the same way. I do that so they can understand the difference. So if they understand the difference for us, as the parents in the house, they're understanding that if cousin, uncle, aunt were in the midst, or anybody that was a babysitter, this is what's going on. And we teach them some of these things as well too early on, so that way they can, if we're not there, they can do that for themselves if they have a babysitter. Just because we don't want to give any room for anything to happen. Everybody's capable of doing something. I'm not saying anybody that someone's going to do it, but anybody's capable of doing it. However, we want to make sure we create this barrier, safe place for them to know what's the difference of things that happen, so that way it doesn't happen for them.
All right. You being from a different culture, right? Mm-hmm. And your wife also being from another culture. Mm-hmm. We're all black people, but different backgrounds and all of that. Mm-hmm. How is the dynamics in your family, your day-to-day family life? Because, hey, you do things differently. She also do things differently. Yeah. Though we all look alike, we all black people, but different origins and then background. How do you people, marry these two cultures together?
Yeah, that's a very good question as well too. Early on, what we talked about was dismantling the old ways of doing things, right? The culture. Because when I grew up in an African home, she grew up in an African American home, so this is a little bit different. But we did still have some of those culture, whether it's the way we discipline, and the way we, parents and as well as our relationship. So. For me, I recognize in the African culture there was a lot of things that was wrong. There was some great stuff as well too, but there was a lot of things that was also wrong that I needed to do differently if my relationship is going to be great. If I want to raise my children, right? So we talked. That was the first thing before even the kids got there. We talked. We talked about our roles. We talked about not that, oh, you're the woman of the house, so you're gonna have to do this and stuff like that. No, like we recognize, like for me, I'm very involved with my family, so I don't mind cooking. And like if she's not able to, and she's a great cook and she's a great baker, but I'm not pulling that all on her, right? If I'm tired, she's like, hey, do you want something? Do you want me to cook for you? And I let her know, like, oh yeah, can you make this, or I make that for myself, but it's not that I give her a special, as a woman, you're going to take care of this. And as a man, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be the provider of the house. However, early on, we did discuss that, she was going to be a stay-at-home mom before we even thought about having kids. That was what she always wanted to do, would be a stay-at-home mom, because we realized the expenses of having daycare and all that. We could have saved all of that, right? So it was a shocker for me, because I'm used to being in a home where the parents, both mom and dad, even though I didn't have my dad, but my mom was married to someone else, and they were both working. My siblings, their relationship, they both were working. So it was different for me to hear from her she wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. However, after discussing, doing some calculation and everything, I was like, yeah, let's go ahead and do that. God will provide for everything. You can be a stay-at-home mom, and we will teach our kids how to, we'll raise our kids together. And it worked out perfectly. She has her background in her bachelor's in family, and as well as early childhood. So all of the things that she learned from that, we implemented into our relationship, into our family. So yeah, we pretty much had to learn to kind of get away from the old culture and try to do something for ourselves that worked for us, because not everything worked for everybody. So we had to figure out a plan that works for us. Who takes out the trash? Well, she doesn't like taking out the trash, so I take the trash out. Even though that part we talked about, she's like, oh, that's a man thing. I was like, okay, I'll take out the trash. She doesn't like it, so I'll do it, right? Washing dishes, she can wash dishes. I'll wash dishes. She can sweep. I sweep. It's not a specific role, right?
So you guys don't do like, hey, I'm the man of the house. Mm-mm. I go work. You do that. Guys don't do like specific role. Like, yeah, you doing this.
No.
And I'm doing that.
No. Not necessarily, no. We do, and still learning that there is still a difference into our, role as, especially in the kingdom of God, like as a woman, and as a man, that we do have specific roles, right? I am the provider, and she is also takes care of the home. However, at the same time, it doesn't mean that she is less than me. We are partners. We're supposed to be, she's my helpmate. We're supposed to be there for each other. So the difference that we try to learn is that, there are some parts of me that maybe I do, want respect, and she wants to love. How do we learn that? Because in the scripture, it talks about, man, love your wife, and woman, respect your husband, and all that extra stuff. So we had to learn how to incorporate that into our relationship, and still learning. But it wasn't anything like, hey, you're the woman of the house. You got to take care of this thing, and I'm the man of the house. I got to take care of this thing. No, that's a separation that creates a whole lot of different things. We learned that we're helpmate of each other, and when one part of us is fallen, the other person can be able to stand in that gap for that person.
Okay, you being African, right? Mm-hmm. And then she being African American, right? America has a culture when it comes to like relationship, marriage, right?
Yeah.
You being a Christian, right? Mm-hmm. Christian religion, right? The Christian religion has two sides: the Old Testament and the New Testament.
Yeah.
And then in the Old Testament, men could marry or involve with multiple ladies. And in the New Testament, men could sort of like just one, so one. Would you think your wife would be ever be like, hey, I will accept you adding on?
Another woman?
Yep.
No. I mean, it was never a thing that was supposed to happen in the Old Testament as well, too. That's a misconception of the whole thing. So God always intended for men, for only one man and one woman, right? Even in the Old Testament. It was our greed that wanted to have, multiple wives, especially when we're trying to repopulate the earth, be fruitful and multiply, right? And we trying to create an heir for our family. And if one person, like we talk about Abraham and Sarah, how did that happen, right? When she felt like she couldn't born a child, well, she had one of her maid to do that. But it was not intended for us to have multiple wives. But that was allowed in some sense, right? Because it was like, well, you guys are going to do whatever you guys want to do. So, let's go ahead and create some rules of how that's going to be. What happened? It created a lot of situation when there's multiple wives, right? So God knew what he was doing when he wanted this one. It's already hard enough to just have one wife. Imagine having multiple wives, and I can't understand like kings that have concubines and all that.
Still in most African cultures,
it still is.
Yeah,
it still is.
Because very day. Like what I mean. Some men like not like the current present day folks are not doing it. But let's back up 50 years or 40 years or 20 years ago. You know what I mean?
I know people that have.
Your grandpa will have like 2-3 wives.
My grandpa did.
Oh.
Yes, actually, good thing you brought that up. No, my grandpa did have multiple wives, right? It was a culture back then. My mom was she was one child of many. He was like the village chief. So he had multiple wives, and he didn't know about Christianity. He wasn't converted to Christianity at that time. And that created some issue, obviously, later on. But when he finally got converted to Christianity, and he wanted to be a pastor, right? And they had to talk to him like, hey, you can't have this many wives, right? You're going to have to let go of some of them. So that's what he did. A lot of them end up having to leave the home. They went out and venture out into the world. Don't know some of them where they are right now. But yeah. Okay,
so I was checking something, right?
Yeah.
Women are normal men. So if we got to do 1:1, right? Mm-hmm. The rest of the women remaining, who gonna take them?
Who's gonna take the rest of the women
that has been remaining? Imagine, okay, we have like just an example, right? Mm-hmm. Let's say we have about like 60% female in this world and 40% male. Mm-hmm. If we do 1:1, the 20% remaining, what are they gonna do?
That's a very good. That's a very good question. Listen, I cannot tell you exactly how it is. There are some people that actually do have multiple, and there's people that have multiple girlfriends or side woman or side chick, as they would say, right? But as relationship goes, I can't tell. Not everybody is meant for marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
Not everybody is meant. And there's a lot of people that recognize early on that I don't want to marry. I don't want marriage. I don't want children. I don't want that. So they just live a life free. Maybe they just have partners that they just, have just natural relationship with. However, I can't really tell exactly what that lifestyle is. But, there's somebody out there for everyone. But not everybody wants somebody for a lifetime.
That's true. Okay, so let's back down a bit into your time in the army or military. Mm-hmm. What came in your mind, or why or how did you decide that, okay, I want to join the army?
Yeah, it's funny that you said that, because I when I first came to this country, and I said I want to have nothing to do with the military. I don't have anything to do with guns. I don't want to have anything to do with touching it. It was because I was traumatized. There was a lot of things from that. Yeah. I saw what that did. Yeah. I saw the devastation, the killing that happened. There was kids young, like around 5-6 years old, that was taken out as child soldiers, right? And they had guns bigger than them, but they were carrying that. You can search the war right now on Google. You will see kids holding guns that was like just about the same size as them. So I didn't think about that, you know. However, my brother was in the army. He was early 2000. He joined the army, and then not only that, he was one of the first few people that went to Iraq during that war that happened, right? So, and he came back with a lot of trauma, PTSD. You know, he saw things, he experienced things that a lot of people that in the military that experience to this very day. So when I was trying to figure out what to do in my life, first I was going for mechanical engineering, and then when I was studying, I was doing good at math and everything. However, I started chasing a girl. That affected me, right? My first love affected a whole lot of different things. So, and I wasn't focused at that time. So that then I dropped out, and I need to figure out what to do. My brother said, "You can join the military." And he always taught me.
So wait, yeah, that lady or that girl broke your heart?
Broke my heart. No.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yes, definitely broke my heart. That was very hard. Mind that I was a person that was always struggling with that identity of, you know, at that time I didn't know, but just like trying to be in a relationship. But it was very difficult with her, right? And then that kind of led me in the path of being, you know, that whole thing of always having to be with a woman. And then that led me into place. Like I felt like a bum. You know, I needed to find no offense to anybody, but I needed to find something to do. I didn't have a job. I didn't have an experience in the job. So every time I did apply for something, you know, you have to show some experience. I didn't have that. I was still young, or in my early 20s. Because my goal was always to stay in school. So when I started working, I couldn't get that. So that led me to try to figure out what I need to do with my life. And if mechanical engineering is not going to be for me right now, I need to find something else. So my brother told me, join the military. And I was like, that's not going to be something I'm going to do. But he always taught me this, like, hey, if a house accepts you, you gotta have to help to take care of the house, right? So one of the things that are gonna help to take care of the house is also to protect the house, you know.
That's
so
true.
that was his motto. He was very patriotic. So I was like, oh yeah, you know, you can join the military. So the first time I signed up for the Marines, and my mom said no and I signed up from the Army. She's like, no two sons of mine are gonna be in the same branch. And I was more intellectual, right? That's me. I don't want to sound messed up, but I'm the brains of the family, and that's what I am. So a church sister of mine told me about the Air Force, and that's how I did my research very well, and then that's how I got into the Air Force. I needed. It's not. I wouldn't want to sound like, oh, I was very patriotic. I want to kind of, you know, join the military because I was patriotic. Part of it was a little bit, but mainly because I needed something. Like I needed a starter. I needed to do something for myself besides just trying to find a job for myself.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean, share with us your time in the Army. What was it like?
In the
What
Air
were some
Force?
of the experiences, you know what I mean, you went through? What were some of the, you know what I mean, tasks or projects or, you know what I mean, places you got, you know, share some experience with that.
Yeah. So the Air Force was good in some way, and there's some bad stuff. There's a lot of politics that also happen. But I got to meet a lot of good people as well too. To people to this very day that I'm friends with. But there are some other times as well too that I've experienced some really negative stuff in the military.
Can you share? Can you share some of that?
So whenever I'm in there, I mean, when I was in there, I like to do my work to the fullest. That's just me. I don't like to leave things on, whether it's physical training, right? Because I also used to help train some other people as well too, fitness. I like the standard was always 100, right? I mean, you want to make 100, but I always want to do above the 100%, right? If the 1.5 mile run, you got to run it in 9:30 to get 100. I want to run it in like a 8 minute. I want to run it in a 7 minute. That's just me. So when I do these things and when I do my job great, I have, you know, backlash for that. People didn't like the fact that I did great in my stuff, and I got a recognition. You know, now not just any recognition, but I got promoted earlier, or just what we call below the zone. But we got, you know, ranked to a little bit earlier, And then I got on the news, local news, as well on the newspaper, the base newspaper, the local news in Louisiana, and all the way to a point where that my story got sent all the way to Liberia. My newspaper was printed out and everything. So that became an issue that added more of an issue to things. So people did some stuff to kind of mess my promotion up, right? Even especially during the time that I lost my kids, because
Wait, how did that happen?
so in a previous relationship that I had, I was in a relationship with some other lady, and she got pregnant, and we were expecting, we were in a different state, and we were trying to figure out our relationship thing. But during the time that we find out she was pregnant, we find out that she was pregnant with twins, and the boy and the girl. So we were expecting at that moment. However, she worked worked in the hospital as a nurse, and I guess she was pushing one of the beds or something like that. I can't exactly remember what the full detail, but somebody pushed the bed into her stomach. It was an incident that happened at work that unfortunately caused the loss of those kids. So that was my first loss.
Wait, was it a patient or a colleague?
It was a colleague. Yeah, it was.
Did he or she intentionally did that or what?
I know it was an accident based off what she told me. It was an accident. It wasn't anything that was intentional or anything like that. So at least that's a detail that I got. And unfortunately, I didn't have the privilege to travel to kind of be there for her during that time. I was kind of restricted, which was one of the issues that I had. But I was restricted to travel, so I had to just be in a different place and watch her go through that. And we weren't technically in a full-on relationship at that time, but we were thinking about it. But the thought about just being in the place where I felt like, one, I was, first I was like, man, I was scared to even have kids right now. But the idea that I was going to have kids, and we already started naming the kids. We named the boy after my brother. And then that happened, it's devastated me. And not only that, but for me to be in a different location while she's going through all of that and not being able to be a support for her was a hit to me. And that also affected our relationship, where we had a split, right? Because the thought of us being together, or the thought of us, well, we're not sure if we're going to be together, but we're still having a conversation and still having some interaction. It's still bringing those thoughts of like the kids and everything like that. So she had to we had to make a clean break in our relationship. And then fast forward, my wife and I, we ended up losing our son in 2017. Oh, wow. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So which kind of led to me leaving the Air Force in that season that was happening. If I may, I'm give a little history of that. So 2017, after I came back from my deployment, we did because we got married in 2016, but we did our wedding in 2017. That year, everything was supposed to be great, honeymoon, everything. And then my wife went into this medical situation. Come to find out that she had ovarian cyst. At that time, we didn't know exactly what was going on. They thought that it was a little bit of a cyst, and they said they'd clear it out. And we were expecting to have kids later on. And then while we were pregnant, she went into this, medical emergency. We went from hospital to hospital, and they kept saying that, she probably has round ligament pain and all that extra, which is supposed to be normal for a pregnant woman. And it came to a point we had to go to the emergency room. And at that time, the doctor said, "Hey, it's your wife or your son, but we have to do a surgery." They found that there was a cyst on the ovary. It's a dormer cyst. It was huge, and that was it tore and was causing the blood circulation to her ovary. That was what was causing the pain to her. So they had to do an emergency surgery. But because she was so early on in the trimester, right, they were afraid that if they do the surgery, there's going to be a loss of the child. But if we don't do the surgery, it's going to be out of her or both of them. So that's why they gave me an ultimatum. It's either your son or your daughter. I mean, your son or your wife. I was like, well, I believe in God. You guys can do the surgery. So I have called on my prayer warriors, and we got everything. So the surgery was successful, and the baby was good. Fast forward, we had to be seeing a high risk doctor and everything that, and come to find out that his heartbeat was not strong enough, right? So we had to keep
How old
seeing.
was he?
Sorry.
How old was he? Your son?
How was he? Was still in. I mean, she was still in the belly. She was still pregnant with him, right? Yeah, she was still pregnant with him. So like whenever we go to check, because that we had to be seeing a high risk doctor. And it was like, okay, we're gonna have to figure out to get this baby out a little bit earlier than expected, because he's having growth problems, as well as his heart rate is not as strong. So that was the plan. Fast forward, that week was such a strong week, and like my brother in Africa called me that he has this incurable disease. My parents, my mom in Rhode Island called that they got this huge accident. So I was going through this crazy time, and I was wondering why God is what's going on, why God is not hearing my prayer. And I talked to my mother-in-law, read this article about listening to God. And then the very next day on Saturday, God told me to leave the Air Force. That, hey, after the enlistment is up, you're going to leave the Air Force. And that was the first time I ever had a conversation with God, just as clearly as you and I having a conversation, right? So I didn't know exactly what his plan was. Fast forward December 21st, we went into the getting ready for the holidays to go to Nebraska for the holidays, because we were stationed in Louisiana. And as we went to the hospital, to the high risk doctor, the nurse looked at us and just like, oh, I'll be right back. Her face dropped. And then she went and grabbed the doctor. The doctor came in, and all we heard was, sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Benjamin. Unfortunately, there's no heartbeat. And that was devastated us. We still believed in that moment that we had to do emergency leave. Like, we have to leave at that moment. We told our squadrons, like, hey, we're going to leave earlier than we wanted to. Went to Nebraska, as we had already planned for the holidays, and just praying, God, please stop this baby's heart. Please stop the baby's heart. And it wasn't until the morning of the 25th, like around 2 a.m. in the morning, my wife is crying, and I couldn't really cry because I had to be there for her. Like, I didn't grieve properly for doing the loss of my son. And it was around that time that we realized, it dawned on us, man, like, hey, December 25th. This is the day that even though we don't know when Jesus was born, but this is the day we represent Jesus' birth. The least we can do is give our son back to you, our only son back to you. And the moment we said that, because we had already named him Judah, right, meaning praise, the moment we said that, there was this overwhelming peace that came to both my wife and I. And then God spoke to me in that moment and said, this is the reason why I told you a month and a half earlier for you to leave the Air Force, because I'm going to have you start working on documentaries. And that's what led to me leaving the Air Force.
I see.
But the situation with that is, what happened when I was with my squadron was the leadership over there did some really messed up things.
What did they do?
When I don't usually like to talk bad about it, but let's just say my leadership at that moment when that was going on, I had a struggle with the grief process, but I was still being overworked, right? Because I was like the workhorse. I knew a lot of different things and how to do things and how to fix situations. And while my wife just finally went through the surgery to get just a regular induced to get the baby out, she's home by herself. If it wasn't for my mother-in-law being there, she would have been home by herself grieving. I was at work. Mind that we get out of work 4:30 p.m. I was at work like 12 a.m., 1 a.m. because there was work that was piled up given to me. Because when I go on leave, come back, the people that were supposed to take care of my stuff, they don't take care of it. That's usually the case. They allow them to do whatever they want to do. So I have mountains of stuff that I had to do. And they knew about my situation. And I told them, I said, my wife is home by herself. You guys know the situation is happening. Why are you guys still giving me work? The time my supervisor looked at me, he said, well, I thought you wanted work to do to kind of keep your mind off of what's going on.
That is crazy.
And that right there just shook me to the core. And I had to compose myself, one, because of my rank, and two, because I didn't want to sound like this angry person, but I did kind of shot back. I said, if I wanted work, I would have asked you for work, but I never asked for this. my wife is home by herself grieving. We just lost our son, our only son. And he had this face, like he's like shocked that I really spoke that. I was like, yeah. Then I got my work done and I went home. At that very moment, I realized that not everything is just great. Sometimes you gotta figure things out for yourself, right? And I was just this gave me more of the motivation to follow the plan of what God has already called me to do. But it affected me. It affected me mentally because I never really got to grieve at that moment because all I was doing was working the season, all the way until we finally had our daughter.
Okay.
Yes.
So, did you ever face racism, whilst you were serving in the military?
Oh yeah, but I can't prove it. Yeah, it's unfortunate I can't prove it. I did. And there were some ones I can clearly prove it. We had mountains of documents to prove some of those things that happened, but it's just anything, right? However, it was I had to know the strategy of how to talk about the situation. There was like I said, there was politics of stuff, right? Can I say there was racism? There was all the African Americans around there, so you can't really prove that when there's all the African Americans, right? But I can clearly see that line. I was only African. Can I say that was the situation? Yeah, I could say that, but I still can't I can't really say, hey, this is the reason why, because there was always a counter to that. Like, well, there was all the African American. There's no way you was receiving racism. I was like, well, there's the proof of everything that I've been doing, right? I was a target of a lot of situation. I do my work very well. You guys, they know that. I got recognized through the base. I was able to change things all the way up to the level of the Air Force, right? However, it just came to a point where I just couldn't improve the situation, but I can prove that there was some type of discrimination against me, which I provide documentation to show that. And eventually there was a little bit of a calmness. Like even the whole thing with us losing our son, I was normally supposed to get like a break of grief time. And it wasn't like they didn't want to give that to me. They wanted me to work. It was my wife's squadron or my wife's people that finally was able to fight for me, to finally give me that time for me to, a break for me to take time for me to grieve. But it's hard for you to prove something when there's always a counter. But I don't want to always look at it as a negative, because it taught me a lot. I learned a lot from the military. I learned a lot from the Air Force. I met so many great people, even within the place I worked as well. The people that I've got to meet with my wife, as well as the people that I got to meet even when I was deployed or anywhere that I went to. It was great. There was just those moments that I've encountered that I just felt like, you know what? I wish it was a different way, but I knew what God was doing, what He was preparing me for. Yeah. And I had to learn to be faithful and to be resilient through this whole process.
That's great. That's great. So, you've been working a lot on, photography, and then you switched to documentary, filming.
Yeah.
Why, the switch?
It was a calling. And when I got that call in 2017 to do it, I didn't really pursue it until 2020, right? During the pandemic. I was still working. I was working for the accounting firm at that time. And then and I was kind of let go in that moment. And I just realized, hey, I need to do something for myself. And that's when I was like, oh, I got a camera. Let me go ahead and learn photography. So I started learning photography. I went through YouTube University, and almost everybody that does that, and learned how to shoot. Learned my camera from inside out, and I finally started getting paid for weddings and all that type of thing. Then 2021 came around. I added video to my business. But I didn't really do what God asked me to do until I moved to Nebraska. Moved to Oklahoma from Nebraska in 2022, right? Then God told me, say, hey, I'm going to find somebody else. I called you to do this, but if you don't do it, I could find somebody else. I don't need you, right? I called you, but I don't need you. So that shook me. So I finally put the business. I called the business My Judah for the faith-based content. And then my other business, I just rebranded to a different name. And I just started doing it because I realized there are stories that need to be told, right? Everybody has a story, and like whenever I meet someone, they have a story. They don't really realize that they have a story. When I tell my story, they just like they feel small compared to me, and I was just like, no, everyone has a story. We always look at the individual in front of us, and we make a judgment based off the individual in front of us, whether they're rich or just a mean-hearted person, right? But we don't know the journey that they had to pass through to be the person that they are right now, right? You know, like whether they became successful or not. So, but when I got to meet these individuals and I hear the story, it changed a different thing in me. It gave me a different perspective of other people. And because of that, I realized that people are just saying on stories that should be shared, whether it's to give hope or maybe stories that need something that just needs to be given to a family member, just needs to be told. Maybe it's just a release for them that needs to happen, right? For example, the story of my childhood trauma with the sexual assault and all that extra stuff. If I had held it on for a long time, it would affect a lot of things in my relationship to this very day. Kind of still a little bit, but if I hadn't released it, it would have been really worse. Some people hold on to that. And when they finally were able to tell this story and, you know, they heard my story and finally able to tell their story, it was a big relief for them. And I just love telling people's story. That's a great thing. And especially the older relatives, right? The seniors. They have so much good stories. They have history of things that happen in their life, whether it's the culture or the family dynamics. And unfortunately, that they are leaving this world with those stories being untold. And my goal is to be able to be that avenue for them to be able to tell their stories, and that stories to be preserved for their future generation or for somebody else that needs to hear it. So that's the reason why I do it. I just love hearing people's story and telling their story in a different light.
So how is the process like, in your production? So how do you guys, in terms of production wise, how do you cast for characters to act or play certain roles?
Yeah. How
do you do that?
So we don't do a whole reshaping the whole story where we doing like acting and everything, right? Sometimes we get the video footage, stock footages online or stock images online. However, we do an interview process. So we meet the individual. Let's say let's say a grandma you have, right, and they have story. First we want to hear their story. From hearing their story, we craft the questions that we need to ask them in the interview, kind of like what's going on right now. And from that, we then create a whole story from beginning to end, how we're going to tell the story. Whether we're getting old footages from them, maybe from VHS to convert to digitally, they might have old camcorders, just all pictures. Then we put that all into the story. And then if we need to grab some more stock footages and images online to kind of tell the full story, we will do that. And then all the way to the end, that's how we tell. And then we have the family look the whole story and then let us know. Well, the craft the story. We tell them exactly how we craft the story, and we let them know this is what's going on, and they can go ahead and tell us which ones they want to take out and which one they don't want to take out, right? And then before we start the whole production process.
Okay. So, what's your goal? Netflix, Tubi, Amazon.
Yeah.
What's your goal?
Man, my goal is all of them. My goal is to direct and produce authentic stories, right? History, any type of documentary that you can think about, especially the ones that revolves around culture, life, or family. I want to be able to tell those stories. My goal is to be able to have these stories being brought as a series on Netflix or something like that. If it doesn't happen, I do it on myself on YouTube. But there's these stories I definitely want to be being told in a bigger platform for people to see, right? And I do want to direct full-on documentaries, full-on stories, movies.
Have you checked Tubi?
I've
No, by the way, people are that money. Tubi, but Tubi, trust me,
it's not that bad.
You definitely know you see some
low,
skill content over there.
Everybody starts somewhere.
Yeah,
yes.
But there's also some good. Yeah, and then it's paying. Tubi is paying. I watch certain interviews like directors be like, I'm making more money on Tubi that are making on Netflix.
Because part of it probably movie is so bad that people really want to see it. You know, so there are some movies that can be so bad and talked about that people, when the story goes around, other people want to watch it, right? So your views are up from that. Oh, it could just be like, it doesn't have to be like full on cinematic and with the theatrics and all that extra stuff, but it could be just like the story behind it, right? It maybe they might have forgotten they had a cup over here that wasn't supposed to be over here. They might have like did a terrible job on the makeup, right? Maybe it's a blood, but the blood is whatever.
Continuity.
Right. But the story itself is probably good enough for people to do it. It's working. They're getting paid for it. So Toby is not that bad. I mean, could it do better? Nowadays, we have a lot of like filmmakers, young filmmakers, or people with like just regular cameras that can just produce really great movie with great lighting, as long as you know how to do storytelling, how you set up your light, your audio, and everything. Like if you can do that, you can produce really great stories. But some people can have great imagery but terrible stories.
Yeah.
Right. So it goes either way, but everybody starts from somewhere.
That's true.
So. You can end up in Tubi, you can end up on Netflix, you can end up on Prime Video, or I don't know, Apple TV, whichever one, right?
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 10 years from now, how do you see yourself in the things you're trying to do?
10 years from now, my goal is to have a bigger platform, right? With being able to tell stories from any location, right? Having teams from different locations for us to be able to tell family stories and be able to have a website. Well, we wish we do, but people to go on a website and request these stories, and they can go ahead and find places that they can tell that story to. Right, having videographers in different states, different countries that can go ahead and set the place up and have the stories. So 10 years from now, it's my goal to have that going.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my goal is to have like.
You want to take
almost
it to
everybody.
Hollywood?
I could take that. I mean, nowadays Hollywood is not the same way, but I want to take it to where we can go ahead and produce really great movies. So, do I want to be able to make my own movie? Yes, I have stories that I've already screenwriting I've already done, and the goal is to see where it goes from here.
Okay, so let me put your mind back a little bit.
Yeah.
Currently, AI.
Oh.
AI, because you could see certain videos and visuals being, you know what I mean, auto
AI.
I'm like, okay, because imagine, okay, so see, AI is good, artificial intelligence is good, making life easy, but at the same time, also, we have the traditional way of doing things.
Yeah,
and then AI sort of like somebody could just code killing something, and then so making, let's say you could hire a gaffer, you could hire like a chief grip, you could have a dolly assistant, you could have like a light technician, you could have like a cameraman, a cinematographer, a writer, director, all of that. Now AI is sort of like, hey, trying to push away all of that. What do you think about it?
AI is not terrible, but is being used terribly, right? AI, look at ChatGPT and all the other AI softwares out there that is being used, especially now that we have the AI that's creating videos that they can talk, and now people can't really distinguish between what's real and what's not. And even now, I think I've seen where Hollywood are using some part of AI for their video, right? It's not terrible. It's the fact that if you are actually a low budget filmmaker, it's just you solo or something, like go ahead and use AI to kind of help you on some of those things that cost effective, right? You're not able to spend $500,000 plus to make the movie. How can you go about using the resources that you have right now through AI to kind of get that done? That's good, right? But if you have the budget to do that, don't cut down on really creative people that can do that. Great gaffers and all those people that can actually do that for you, especially screenwriters, right? People like you can tell nowadays when a movie is actually being just run through AI, like stuff like that. It's like, man, this doesn't make any sense. The plot doesn't make any sense, right? So there are great screenwriters, there are great writers out there that can actually do these things, look it over, and actually write it. If you want to run it through AI to kind of like clean up some stuff, sure, but don't be your first step for your resource or for you to use to do things, right? You can still put that in your budget to go ahead and hire the right person for it. But I think people get scared of AI. Unfortunately, AI is here to stay. You hear that a lot. How can we incorporate AI into our work? Well, we shouldn't be that we're using AI to kind of cut down on the jobs of other people. We should be using AI to help those people to make their job easier.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
But and then cut down on your costs, your overhead costs on the things that you're doing. But people are scared of AI and what it's doing to the industry. What is the music industry? I'm not sure if you're hearing some of the music nowadays.
I did.
Yeah.
I've heard a
And
lot.
then videos and all that, and even pictures. I mean, I've used AI when I'm editing photos as well as video sometimes. But it's a resource. So I'm not really scared about it. I'm scared of the people that are actually just using it as their only tool, the only source. Abusing it. Yeah. And not being truthful as well, too, that they're using it.
And then you can't even, sometimes you see some of the footage, you should be like, is it real? Because sometimes you have the real footage and then on AI, like, which one is real?
Yeah.
How can you differentiate what is real and what is not?
Yeah, it's the untrained eye cannot see it, unfortunately, because I'm online sometimes and I will see some of these images or footages, and I'm just like, I can tell this is AI, right? In the beginning, it was very easy. You can tell the hands are kind of off and things like that. But now it's gotten so well that you can't even tell. Even eating, you can't even tell if it's AI. To the untrained eye, they can't tell. So the trained eye, like ourselves, like as videographers or creatives and stuff, we can pinpoint where this is AI. But the public is probably getting so tired of being pushed on so many AI stuff that they just don't want it anymore. And because they're seeing so many AI stuff, they started to lose trust in things that are actually real, that are actually produced really well. Maybe the lighting is so great, it's so amazing that it seems so unrealistic that people are just like, no, this is AI, so they don't trust it. Right. So we're in this place right now, like, okay, are people just gonna accept it finally, just like whatever, let's just AI go, or are we gonna just continue to fight against AI? So we don't know where we are right now.
All right. Okay. So Tamba, we're about to wrap up this conversation, right? And then that's your camera, right? You know what I mean? Whoever watching this show right now, you've gone through a lot. Your life is a movie. That, hey, when somebody pay attention to what you've gone through and they're still here alive, still pushing for greatness, it's amazing. So inspire folks watching this interview right now that, hey, there's more to life.
Yeah. So for anyone that's out there that actually watching this anytime, anywhere, in your season of life, just know there is more to life. I can attest to that. I have struggled through a lot of mental health, and to a point where physically I've thought about on the life of myself a few times, but I want to let you know there's more to life, right? The things that you faced could become your testimony, it become your strength. But if you give up on this right now, you won't see how far you can go with that. I just want to encourage you that your story can be told, and your story can be a relief and a healing, not just to you, but to the other people around you as well too. Know that you are loved, even if you don't feel like it. Know that you are loved, and know that God loves you. If anybody else in this world that you don't feel the love is coming from, know that God is love you so much. So stay in there, stay strong. It's not over. It's not over at all.
All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right. It's been a great conversation, very deep and insightful. It's not yet over. So wherever you're watching us from, hey, I got to tell you this: you don't give up. You don't give up. So keep on fighting, keep on building, and one day you're gonna get there. Because that's life. You got to go through it. No pain, no gain. Thank you once again for having you on this episode. I've been your host and friend, Kenna the Greatest, on One-on-One on K84 Podcast. And then please, if you're watching this and you've not subscribed, kindly go follow, like, share, and subscribe on all social media platforms. Just search K84 Podcast and then hit on the notification button. So hey, thank you once again for sharing and letting your precious time with us. I appreciate you guys. Bye.
It's KKATL, turn up, it's official.